What's going on, world? Once again, it's your boy, Derek Dunn, back with another interview for Reviews&Dunn. My guest today is a brother who I've been trying to get on the interview for a minute now, but, he's a very, very busy black man out here doing his thing, producing quality content, telling our stories. So, as fate would have it, we're both free today, so we finally get a chance to chop it up. Welcome to everyone. Please, everyone welcome to the line, Mr. Clarence Williams IV. No relation to Clarence Williams III. Trust me, I've already asked him that. So once again, welcome my man, Clarence Williams, to the line. How you doing today, sir?
Doing very well, very well. Thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you for taking time out of your schedule, Mr. Busy Filmmaker, to talk to me. So this is my blessing and my opportunity to talk to you before you make that Oscar speech one day. I can say I need you this more time.
I appreciate that.
So first up, what three films played the biggest part in your decision to pursue a film career?
That's a great question. So, of course, I'm sure you get this a lot. It's always hard to ask the filmmakers, what are to single out, 1, 2, or 3 films that have made an impact on them when, could be hundreds or, thousands of movies that have inspired them. But for me, the top films, I would say definitely, the number one for me is Do the Right Thing. Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. Well, for one, that movie always spoke to me because I think it's a very honest and realistic depiction of race relations, racism,
Yes.
prejudices, and I think the brilliance of that movie comes from the fact that not one person is right or wrong. Like, Spike is not saying, all the black people in this are right, all the white people are wrong, or vice versa, the white people are right, black people are wrong. These are intricate, complex characters who are flawed. So, there's some characters you start out liking and you end up disliking them by the end, and vice versa. So I think, and it's something that you can watch over and over again. But that, for me, definitely left a mark on me because, one, it's character-driven, and a lot of my work is very character-driven. Do the Right Thing isn't necessarily like about a plot. If someone were to ask you what it's about, you can't really say the plot, but you can say the story, which is, it's the hottest day in the summer in Brooklyn, and you see kind of how race tensions erupt. So for me, that was always a movie that I think I saw it when I was 10 for the first time, and then ever since it's become like my number one favorite film. And every time I watch it, I see something different. So that's one. That's one movie that has really spoken to me. Another one, I would have to say Baby Boy, John Singleton's Baby Boy, because John Singleton, he's another one of my favorite filmmakers, right up there with Spike Lee. I think for me, once again, Baby Boy is not really plot-driven. It's more of a character study on an imperfect black man kind of trying to survive and live in South Central. So I think, now me personally, I'm not from South Central. I'm from the East Coast originally, but I can connect and relate to that movie because I know what it's like to be kind of young, trying to make a name for yourself, trying to do stuff. And once again, this is a film where Jody, the main character, he really isn't likable. A lot of stuff he does, he cheats on his girlfriend. He treats her, he doesn't treat her the best. He's a mama's boy. So there's a lot of different things about his character that aren't likable, but he still has charisma. He still has something about his personality makes you root for him. And I think that, that's a credit to John Singleton's screenplay because, this is somebody you necessarily wouldn't want to root for, but you care about him and you want to see him grow and become the man that he needs to be. So that's another one. A lot of my films are very character-driven, and I think I always lean more towards films that are character-driven because at the end of the day, when you watch a movie, it's not really the plot that you remember, but it's the characters. And a lot of times it's also often the dialogue. So that's why a lot of stuff I do is driven by dialogue, driven by characterizations. Let me see. What's another one? So I guess the third one that has left a mark on me, I'd have to say, is Chasing Amy, Kevin Smith's film Chasing Amy, because Kevin Smith, once again, he's up there on my list of favorite filmmakers. I think what resonated with me when it came to Chasing Amy is it's a realistic depiction of a relationship. So you kind of watch it blossom, starts off as a friendship between the two protagonists. Then it turns into something else, and of course it's complicated because the Ben Affleck's character Holden, his love interest, Alyssa, is a lesbian. So it's kind of one of those, forbidden romances. It's not something you'd think would happen, that they would get together, but they do. And then over the course of the film, I won't give anything away to those that haven't seen it, but something happens and it causes a big rift in the relationship. And I think that's very relatable, because I think it's a film about insecurities in relationships, not feeling adequate enough with your partner, and how that can kind of collapse the union. So that's another film that's always connected with me and spoken to me. And in my own personal work, also the genres of those three films, they're dramatic, romantic, also comedic at times. Those are the genres that I've always been drawn to. I like dramas, I like comedies, and I like romances. So sometimes I'll never really make a straight comedy or a straight drama or a straight romance, because it'll always have little sprinklings of another genre in there. So maybe it'll be a little humorous or a little serious and a little romantic. So those are the three in a nutshell, the films that have really spoken to me.
Great choices. Just to counter a little bit, Do the Right Thing is definitely required viewing for everyone. I kind of have a similar story that you have. I can recall being maybe 9, first time I saw Do the Right Thing, and I remember my stepfather at the time had come by and he rented it. And, I'm sitting there like, I'm 9 years old. I mean, I kind of have a love for film, but, at 9, I wasn't able to fully process what was going on just yet. So I'm like, man, I want to go outside. Can I leave? It's boring. He's like, no, sit here. You're going to watch this. You need to see this. And the moment Radio Raheem and Saul get into it, from there, it goes from 0 to 100. I'm just sitting there in shock at what I had just witnessed on screen. And to this day, when I go back and revisit it, which is often, I haven't shown it to my son, who's 11, start to finish yet. I've just shown him the Radio Raheem scene, the scene from the moment, they're arguing, to this moment the cops, murder Radio Raheem. He's just like,
right.
Why'd they kill him? And I'm like, well, because, son, it's just evil people in the world. And I even take it to the points where Mookie throws a trash can, and, he asks, like, well, why do you throw the trash can? Well, son, it's one of two things. Either he did it because he was frustrated, or he did it to save Saul. It's one of those debates you got to ask Spike, and Spike's probably going to always give you a different answer, because
exactly.
Interpretation. But Baby Boy, I saw that when I was 20, and I was headed to college, home for the first time. And, you can probably attest to this, that Baby Boy gets such a bad rap, but it's actually such a very well-made film. And the stuff that he was talking about in Baby Boy was so true to life, and it was going on worldwide in so many, ethnic backgrounds, whether you're black, white, Asian, Korean, or whatever you want to say. We've all experienced something in Baby Boy, because Jody was a trash individual, plain and simple.
Exactly.
But he had to grow up, though. At the end of the day, he had to grow up. And the entire scene to where he's, talking to Melvin, and he's just going off at the mouth like, yeah, get that out of my house, yada, yada, yada. And Melvin's just chilling, but then he choke grabs him and everything. That's prevalent on the military, to where, you're in the air, I'm in the Air Force, and I can remember being in basic training, and, those kids that are like 6'2", all stocky and everything, thinking they're the shit. And, you have a T.I., down talking, trying to break you. And the T.I.'s like, all right, you want to see what's up? You want to see who's better, man? So the T.I. will go in there, take his head off, and be ready to go. Now, granted, they don't put hands on you, but it's just the fact that, I guess you want to look at it as, you really don't step to a man unless you're prepared to do something.
Exactly.
And then with Chasing Amy, totally agree. You could totally take away Alyssa being a lesbian and still have the same exact movie. You could have just had it where Alyssa was, I guess maybe sexually confident with men, and you still have the same thing. But it's Smith's dialogue that makes that movie, work. Because, we've all been there to where we're put in the friend zone by somebody, and you're just begging the chick to get with you, and it's like nothing you can do seems to be working. So, yeah, shout out to Kevin Smith, shout out to Spike Lee, and rest in paradise, the late, great John Singleton. We suffered a huge film loss when Singleton passed away last year. It still hurts, and I know for me, I don't even think we got the best of John Singleton, before he departed.
Exactly. That's actually one, because if you think about it, he only made a handful of films that he actually wrote. So I think he was at his most prolific in terms of his own written content in the 90s. But after that, I think Baby Boy was like the last film he wrote. So I definitely would have loved to see more feature films from him. I would have loved it.
Yeah, and just knowing folks in his circle and, people that personally knew him, the stuff he was doing, like when he did Abduction with Taylor Lautner, he did that because he thought, Lautner was hot and, it'd be a hit, and he'd be able to kind of do his passion projects more freely. But, sadly, he had to go the TV route. But, the stuff that Singleton was doing with Hustle and Flow, and that's the vibe that he was going for, where he wanted to eventually get to, was just doing independent stuff and maybe on occasion doing like a popcorn flick or something mainstream. But he really was trying to
get that
be
money.
An independent filmmaker. All right, so who's your biggest influence from a writer's standpoint in terms of dialogue? Just give me one influence from a writer's standpoint.
From a writer's standpoint, well, of course, it definitely is those three filmmakers I mentioned before. But yes, I think number one, I probably do have to go back to Kevin Smith because I feel like his dialogue is relatable. Like a lot of his movies, it's about things that a lot of people, not just one race, can relate to. Like, for example, Clerks is kind of about, just hanging out with your friend, kind of slacking off, talking about life, talking about love, and you can relate to that. Same thing with Mallrats. You kind of, everyone is, about going to the mall or going someplace with your friends, just kind of loitering, not really doing much, but just talking, spending time together, and kind of building a bond. And then once again, chasing Amy, because there are a lot of scenes with Holden and the Banky character, Jason Lee's character. It was very much a bromance film. So I think and of course Jay and Silent Bob is like they have like the ultimate bromance. So I definitely, Kevin Smith is a writer that I've always kind of, when I was younger, I had a phase of just literally not even being original, just copying. Just kind of like literally whatever he wrote, I would just try to write that because I thought it was so good. But then from that, I found my own voice and my own characters. But Kevin Smith is definitely someone who has had a major impact on my writing.
Shout out to Kevin Smith, one of the greats.
Yes, sir.
Did you attend film school?
I went to, when I was younger in high school, I went to like a film academy, the NYFA New York Film Academy. To be honest, didn't really learn a whole lot there, but it was a good opportunity to kind of work with actors and just get to make movies, because I've loved making films since I was 10 years old. So it was a good opportunity to just kind of be free and film stuff, but can't really say I learned much. I ended up going to Carnegie Mellon University, which is not it's like a top drama school, but it's not a film school. So I never had full film training, but I did go to a theater school, which was Carnegie Mellon, and I think I benefited from that more than going to film school because they taught me how to work with actors. We had to all the directing majors had to take acting classes, so they put us in the shoes of actors so we could empathize. And then, of course, we had directing classes where it was more about articulating your vision to a team. So, of course, I wasn't trained in the film sense of like camera angles and different lighting names and, you know, basically the film lingo. I didn't really have a lot of experience with that per se, but I did. I like to think I am pretty good at talking and communicating with actors and, you know, pulling performances out of them. And I think I wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't gone to a drama school. So shout out to Carnegie Mellon.
Let's quickly dive into these projects and the motivation behind a few of my favorites. Up first is Not How It Goes.
Not How It Goes. So actually, Not How It Goes was actually I co-created that with my wife. So shout out to my wife, Christina. She's actually she's been like a co-producer on a lot of my projects. She's also a writer. And this is actually her idea. So the whole series is about two millennials who become friends with benefits, and you see kind of the struggles and the challenges that arise from, you know, a friends with benefits situation. So this was actually her idea originally. It was so she kind of came up with this idea of, you know, why don't we do something about being friends with benefits? Because, you know, everyone at one point or another has had either a situation like that or something similar, or they thought about doing something like that. So it's a very relatable theme. So, you know, we kind of brainstormed, we came up with some characters. It initially started off as a feature film. So we co-wrote this feature film together called Not How It Goes, and had a lot of the same characters that were in the web series. But of course, as you know, I'm sure you know, it's always hard to get a film made. So we kind of had a hard time getting anyone to bite and, you know, give us money to make it. So a couple years later, we put the script down. Maybe like two years later, we were like, let's revisit this. You know, we had that film itch. I'm sure you know about that, where you just have to get this story made or have to get, you know, the story out. So from there, we decided to condense the characters, condense the world, and we wrote it as a you know, a 5 to 10 minute web series. So it's 8 episodes. She wrote 3, I wrote 3, and then we co-wrote 2. And she directed one of the episodes, and I directed the rest. I did the editing. I'm also an editor, so I edit all my films and things like that. So we shot everything in 3 days. It's 8 episodes. I believe the full season is 68 minutes. So we shot all that in 3 days. You know, I wouldn't recommend filming like that because it was very stressful and exhausting, but we were able to get it done. And a lot of it actually has been and pretty well received, which we're both very excited about, because we wanted to make something with an all-black cast, but we wanted it to feature themes that are universal. Because I feel like a lot of times when you watch movies, Hollywood's idea of the norm or universal is like a white person. So you see a movie with a white actor and he's supposed to represent everybody. But I feel like it shouldn't just be white actors. I think you can have an Asian lead that everyone can relate to, a black lead everyone can relate to, a Hispanic lead that everyone can relate to. So we wanted to tell a universal story with people of color. So it was definitely very, very fun experience for us. Stressful, of course, but fun. And it's very interesting to kind of see people. We get met because we have an Instagram page. To anyone interested, it's at Not How It Goes. So we have like little clips, promotional photos, things like that. But it's been a very fun experience for us because we've been getting like messages from people, you know, from around the world, just like, hey, we saw the web series, we love it. What's next? So we're definitely very very excited and proud of Not How It Goes.
Stay Home up next.
So that was a film that I didn't direct that, but I wrote it. So I was it's actually directed by a colleague of mine. He's a filmmaker based on the East Coast. So he's always I've actually been in touch with him for a few years now, and he's someone that enjoys my writing, and he isn't a writer himself, but he comes up with stories and ideas and stuff. And we've worked together. We did another short together called Lovely Day. That's also available on YouTube. I wrote that one, and he directed it. But with Stay Home, we wanted to do something that was inspired by this very devastating and crazy coronavirus pandemic. So it initially started off as something a bit more humorous, but I actually decided to go back and change it. And I just kind of wrote about a young man who's a struggling writer and his girlfriend who believes in him but doesn't want him to quit his job. Because I feel like a lot of us artists, we can relate to, a lot of artists that work 9 to 5s can relate to this idea of, there's never enough time in the day. I want to write my scripts. I want to focus on film, but I don't have time because I have this 9 to 5 job, and I have, I have a relationship, and I have these things, these other commitments that I have. So it's like, when can I get this work done? But the protagonist, his girlfriend Violet, she's honest, and she tells him, if you really love writing, you'll find a way to write. It doesn't matter, you can't blame anything else. If you're a writer, you write. So I think a lot of people can relate to that dynamic of, loving somebody and wanting the best for them. So and I wanted to kind of speak to audiences more by adding something a little more relatable in this story about the coronavirus. So it was initially an idea that the filmmaker pitched to me about like doing something based on the quarantine and corona. So from there I wrote it out. He brought in an actor that he knew, and then I contacted a friend of mine from Carnegie Mellon, who is an actress that I've worked with on numerous occasions. So, it all came together. And that's another film, actually. We were not expecting the response that we got. We thought maybe a few people would be like, oh, okay, this is a nice film. But, some people were saying it touched them, it made them cry, it really left an impact on them. And, as a filmmaker, that's always your dream. Because if you can create something that can speak to somebody or create something that can create a strong emotional response from somebody is always great. So I'm definitely that's another one I'm actually very happy with and excited to get out to the world. Stay home.
And last but not least, your most recent project, I Was Born a Good Girl.
So I Was Born a Good Girl is actually it's based on a novel called She Was Born a Good Girl. So the writer of that, his name is Garfield White. He is an author based in Jamaica. So he's another person that I've been in contact with for a few years now. He actually hired me when I first moved out to L.A. to adapt another book of his into a screenplay. So he was someone that enjoyed my writing and wanted to work with me. And he also found that I was a filmmaker. So he was like, oh, okay, so you direct. And so from there, we've had a rapport over the years. So he reached out to me because he was interested in turning so the original story was She Was Born a Good Girl. He was interested in turning that into a short. So in a nutshell, She Was Born a Good Girl is basically a story about, a young independent woman who attends this all-girl boarding school. And, she's very independent, very studious. She's not really thinking about boys, but a lot of people around her, her friends and, her peers, they're all boy crazy. So she's kind of more, like, girls, relax. You don't need a guy to make you happy, which I think is a very positive and strong message. So from there, I changed the name of the film to I Was Born a Good Girl instead of She Was Born a Good Girl. And I actually have to give a shout-out to Mr. Garfield because he gave me free range. Like, I was able to pretty much change all the dialogue. The character names and the storyline are still the same, but like the words that the characters speak is all me. He, and that's rare because some authors are like, keep my words, don't do this. But he trusted me, and he's like, I believe you can, create a believable, well-written story, so you can, do what you want with it. So I was able to write it all myself, do the casting. My wife actually was she helped with the casting and producing of this film, so she was a big part of in helping me get this made. And we shot it all one day. We actually shot this right before the lockdown started. So we shot this in March, early March, before everything shut down. And this once again was another project. People they saw the comedy in it. A lot of people were like, this should be a TV series or this should be a feature. So this short was actually a proof of concept because we would like to either turn this into a feature or a TV series, whatever is possible. So I created this to kind of hopefully potentially entice people who may be interested in wanting to see this on a bigger scale, bigger screen. So that was kind of how I Was Born Good Girl came about.
Dope. Like I said, y'all, this is a busy cat, man. Every time I'm on Facebook, it seems like every day my brother's posting something new. So shout out to you, man, for staying busy and following your dreams. So as you know, I first became aware of your work when you shared your short, His Pain, which featured Mitchell Edwards, who portrays Cameron on All American.
Yes.
How did you secure Edwards for the role in His Pain?
So actually, so I went to Mitchell. I call him Mitch. I actually went to college with Mitch. We both went to Carnegie Mellon together. So we've been friends since the college days. He's acted in a few films I made in college. Some of my early work, the stuff that will never be seen by the public. But so he's been around for a while. He's always been down to work with me and support and be a part of my projects. So this was just one of those things where I just I hit him up. I was like, hey, would you like to do this little short? It'll just be 2 days of work. And he was like, yeah, no doubt. And Mitch was also in my third feature film that I wrote and directed called My Friend Tucker. So he was the lead in that, and he actually won the Best Acting Award at the Golden State Film Festival, which was right here in Santa Monica. So it was not hard to get him involved. He's actually one of those people who he's always been down to be a part of projects, even when he's busy or doing other stuff, shooting for Netflix, shooting for a lot of big time productions. He's always been pretty good about helping a friend out and working with me. So it was very easy process to get him involved. And His Pain, once again, was another film that people, I think, connected with because it's about domestic violence, but it's from the point of view of the man. So the man is the one that's being abused and put down by his wife. And I think that's something that happens a lot. Maybe people don't want to admit to it, but it does happen. It is a very serious issue. So I wanted to, shed light on that. So I definitely, as you mentioned, I try to stay busy. During this quarantine, I've been pumping out scripts, just gearing up for, when all this is over, or not we can get started again on more projects. So I'm just very grateful, excited to be, to be a filmmaker. I think this is a beautiful medium, and you have the potential to really inspire and motivate people. So it's my dream to just be a filmmaker that, 20, 30 years from now, a filmmaker can say, oh, I watched this Clarence Williams, the fourth film, and it made me want to be a filmmaker. Just the same way that I, watched Spike or Tarantino, Kevin Smith, John Singleton, and, I left their films thinking, I want to do that. I want to make films.
You know that I'm a huge fan of biopics, so I have to ask, who are your top 3 hip-hop acts you feel most deserve a biopic?
Oh, well, that's easy. Number 1 is Big L. That Big L is one of my favorite rappers of all time. He's in my top 5. Not a lot of people know about him. The only people that know about him are like the real hip-hop heads, but he was around in the 90s. With Columbia Records, super young. He was like 20 or 21 when he first got signed. He only dropped one album while he was alive, but a bunch of albums were released after he died. But it's just talking about him just gets me all amped up because he's such a lyricist. His lines are incredible, and he's versatile. Like he had the songs that just the hardcore stuff. He had the smooth stuff, the music with a message. He had, songs that told you to stay away from the street life. So, and unfortunately his life was cut short in 99. He was only, I believe he was only 24. He was I think he was 24 years old, murdered in cold blood. They still, to this day, haven't solved it, found his killer. But his whole story, his rise, his everything he's been through, he's worked with a lot of the greats like Fat Joe, and he was cool with Big Pun, and just a lot of Lord Finesse, just a lot of people in that
Cool
time
J.
period. To this, yeah, exactly. They still talk to him. Nas was influenced by him. So Eminem was influenced by him. So he didn't get the just due that he deserved. But I would love to make a movie about him. Just so not even just. I mean, I would do it just for a selfish reason of me as a fan, just wanting to see his story on the big screen. So definitely Big L. Another one, Big Pun. Big Pun, the first Latin rapper to go platinum. He, honestly, I think, this may upset some people, but, as much as I love Biggie and I love Tupac, Big L and Big Pun were better rappers. So, and I feel like not a lot of people realize this. So Big Pun is another one. Like his wordplay, everything is just crazy. And his life, too. Like, he's somebody that I think he was almost like 700 pounds when he died. He died of a heart attack. So he struggled with weight and eating. He had a eating disorder. He would just eat when he was depressed, eat when he wasn't happy, eat when he was happy, eat when he was sad. It was crazy. So I feel like that is a very interesting character to explore, is like depression, how it gets to that point where you have to eat to make yourself feel better, and it's like nothing can satisfy that hunger. So I feel like, once again, his life, too, would make a great movie. And then my last one, this last one is actually it's a toss-up between Nas and DMX. Because I feel like Nas, he was somebody, once again, a young rapper, came in and just blew people away at such a young age. And to this day, like his, Illmatic and It Was Written and all his stuff from the 90s is it's a lot of people cannot really touch it. A lot of people can't come close to what he did. So I'm a big 90s fan. If it wasn't clear, I'm a big 90s rap head. So I love 90s artists. Same thing with DMX. I feel like DMX was very prolific. He made a huge impact on rap culture, and his story too, like coming from a rough upbringing. Like I would love to do something about his life as well. So those are like my top rappers. But actually, I'm curious. Who would you do biopics on?
I mean, I got so many, man. I'm deeper into the R&B thing, but I always say high five. Just interviewing them and knowing Tony's story. I think the big thing, like when we're in the group and we kind of go back and forth with people, the thing with biopics is everyone has a story, and I think too often we focus on just the meat and the popularity, and we really don't focus on how they got to where they got to or why they got to where they got to. And to piggyback off what you were saying about Big L, Big L has a perfect story to tell. But I think the only thing with Big L's might be the whole Jay-Z connection, because of how Jay-Z is now. Because the reason why Jay wasn't in Notorious was because Jay felt like, I'm not going to take away from, Chris's story, because this is Biggie's story, and if you guys try to put me in there, even though I was part of the story, it's going to overshadow Big's story. So I can't really be part of that whole thing. Now, that being said, though, on the flip side, you could easily throw Jay-Z in there, and then maybe have like possibly a Netflix series about that whole movement. Yeah. First season you focus on Big L. Season 1 ends with Big L's passing away, and then season 2 focuses on Jay becoming where he is now. Because one thing that you'll find in my interviews, whenever I interview an R&B artist, Jay's been around so long, and so many cats forget. Before he became the Jay-Z we know now, Jay-Z was like a young Fabulous with these remixes to R&B tracks. I mean, he worked with everybody. Mm-hmm. Like, when I interviewed High Five and I brought up, their song with them, they're like, you know about that? I'm like, yeah, of course, man, I'm a fan. Of course I know you guys did a song with Jay-Z before he became Jay-Z. That's common music head knowledge.
Right.
But, I mean, R&B, though, like that's like my big thing. So definitely High Five. Even though they've already had a story, I do think that Ralph Tresvant has his own story that can be told, just what he went through, not having the success that he deserved, the pressure of being a front man. BBD has a story, again, that's when you can tell who really knows music and who really doesn't know music and follow stuff per se, because BBD went through a whole thing with Ricky's drug addiction, Mike almost dying, like when recording the album. It's tons of story out there. You just have to want to tell it. And people just, like I said, people think that it's all about the glitz and the glamour, and that's not the case. Once again, to go back to Janet Jackson, how we've been talking in the group back and forth, Janet has a story because people forget that Janet really didn't blow up until 86. Just because her last name was Jackson doesn't mean that she was going to be successful. And she had to fight to get to where she eventually became. So therefore, you have the classic story of an underdog. That's the movie right there. You don't necessarily got to focus on, where she is now, but just tell that story of her being on Good Times, Different Strokes.
Good Times, right. She was Penny. Yeah.
Making those bullshit-ass, those first two albums that were some bullshit, because they were, let's be honest, and then breaking away from Joe and becoming her own person, and then you ended with Control. You ended with that Rhythm Nation, her first tour. It's an underdog story that ends in success. Perfect crowd-pleasing entertainment. And you can tell that story in like 2.5 hours. Yeah,
that'll make crazy money because Janet is an icon. Oh, actually, you just reminded me, though, an R&B biopic that I would really like to see, H-Town.
Oh, yeah.
Because that whole story with Dino dying so young, like all that stuff is just getting robbed by the label. I think their story would be great.
And people don't really take that stuff in consideration. And again, it goes back to us as a community not fully doing research because Dino can blow. Rest in peace. Dino could blow. He could really sing his ass off, no doubt.
Yeah.
But his brother can sing too, and you have to live with that comparison and try to compare, being compared to your brother and continue legacy on. It's tough for anybody to follow. So once again, it's a story of overcoming adversity that a skilled writer can make it work. So it's on writers and filmmakers to make that story succeed. But that's my little tangent on that, though. So we can move on. Though.
I agree completely.
So, given the chance to rewrite the ending of any film, what would you pick and how would you change it?
That is actually a very good question. So I'm gonna give you two answers. One, I wouldn't rewrite this ending, but this is just an ending that I would have liked to see. I would have loved to see the original Juice ending. So, because I was watching, Juice is another one of my favorite films, but Ernest Dickerson, I'm sure you know this already, but the original ending was not Bishop accidentally falling to his death. He was like, nah, I'm not going to jail, and he kills himself. I think that ending would have been so powerful, and it would have been in line with the Bishop character. Like, he wanted power. He didn't want to have to go to jail again like his dad. Him committing suicide would have just been like, oh, dang, like super dark, but also that would have left a bigger impact. So I just had to get that out there because I would have really loved I just wish they had been able to keep that ending. But for me, an ending I would have changed. Okay, so I would only change this just because as a fan I didn't want this to happen. But Menace to Society, I think I would have made that ending a little different. I would have had. It would have been, it might have been a little cheesy, but I would have had Kane survive, just because. It kind of goes in line with Baby Boy. Kane is another character that you really shouldn't like. He's a drug dealer. He's a criminal. He's violent. Like all these things, but it's just I wanted him to make it so bad. So when he was finally getting his life together, he was finally going to leave. So I might have ended that a little differently. I might have had him maybe be seriously injured and almost die, but then that whole experience would have been an eye-opener for him, and he would have been able to move on and then still move with Ronnie and her son. So, of course, it might have been, some people probably would have been like, oh, that's corny and stuff, but I feel like sometimes you got to please the audience. Like, sometimes there are those endings, it's like, everyone wants these people to be together or everybody wants this character to do that. Sometimes I think it's okay to give in and give the ending that everyone wants. Because for me, that ending to this day, it still gets me. I'm like, dang, why, Kane? Why?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback real quick, and I agree with you. With Juice, I think it would have been the perfect coda to highlight mental illness in the black community.
Yes.
Because if you remember when we talked about Juice, just ad nauseum with fellow filmmakers, we were saying how the entire thing was Bishop was never right. And
Nope.
It goes back to the moment he got that gun in his hand, that's what kind of awakened his crazy side, was that rush, that power. So he was already gone, and, I'm not condoning what he did, but it was obviously very clear that he had some mental illness issues, going on. That ending could have brought up, topics a long time ago about mental illness and, how it affects the black community. And for Menace, I agree, too. I mean, I know why they did it, because they wanted to strip away a character the audience grew to love, but how it would have flipped it, though, was the entire time Kane is giving voiceovers in the movie, right?
Right.
So at the end, when it fades to black, you do one more cutaway, and you show Kane in a hospital with everybody around him, and he's been telling the story the entire time from his hospital bed.
Oh, I like that. That's nice. No, I can see it. I can see that.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. Well, but actually, real quick, just another piggyback, because what you said about Juice, that's actually very true. Because a lot of people just think it's just, he's a villain, but nobody really digs deeper. There's because there was that whole little subplot. It's not really explored too much, but with Bishop, his dad was a prison yard, prostitute essentially, and that's as a man being emasculated like that by other men, it's very that there's like a stigma with that. So I think Bishop was like, no, I'm not going out like my dad. I can't do this. And so it's like this, and that's another issue too in the black community. Is like being masculine. You got to be hard all the time as a black man, and then can't be soft. You can't be sensitive. So he's fighting that as well as this, this yearning for power, and that's why he was able to just turn on his day ones. Like that always scared me about the movie, was like he grew up with these guys. These are his best friends, so he just did not care at all.
It's that being drunk with power.
Exactly.
You get a call from Spike Lee saying that he's directing the Blade reboot for Marvel and wants you to serve as his editor. While talking to Spike, Tyler Perry emails you and says that he wants to buy the rights to your short, Love is Growing Up, to turn into a feature film starring Jaden Smith and Megan Thee Stallion. Who are you going to work with?
That's a very specific one, Dan. That's actually, you know what? Actually, you're going to make me think. I think I might just have to, as much as Spike is the GOAT, and it'll be amazing to sit in on him, but I think I would go with Tyler Perry, only because he'd be actually taking one of my stories and turning it into something. So I would be the writer, because I approach filmmaking. I'm a writer first. So like yes, I direct, I edit, I do other things, but writing is my number one. So I might actually end up letting Tyler. I'd be a little weary. I'm like, I'm wondering, like, I hope this turns out okay. Like, what's going to happen? But I think I will go that route.
Who was one actor you would love to pitch your dream project to?
Denzel Washington. Denzel is number one. He's another GOAT, and his career is just versatile. I think him, Will Smith, and mostly just him and Will Smith. They're like one of those. There's two black actors that people don't see race with them. People just look at them as actors. They play characters that any race could play. Like I think that's amazing to be in the Hollywood system and to be an actor of color and you're not seen as an actor of color. That's the dream. So Denzel is an icon. I would love the opportunity to write something that he would star in. That's the dream.
Yeah, I should do this real quick, because I know we're both pressed for time, but between Denzel and Will, let me get your opinion. I've always told people when we kind of debate that the thing about Denzel and Will, like, love them both, I heart them both, but to me, Denzel personifies acting, while Will, on the other hand, is a movie star, and there's a difference in the two. And the difference is Denzel is an actor. He'll get up on stage, he'll do risk and all that. But Will's going to play stuff commercial because he has a natural, everyman, charming type appeal that can appeal to just anybody. So that's why I always give Denzel a bit more of the edge, only because, I've seen him on stage doing King Lear, going all the way back to St. Elsewhere. Like, he personifies acting. There's a difference between being a movie star and being a actor. It's almost like with a Daniel Day-Lewis and a Tom Cruise. Lewis is an actor.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise is a movie star. So, it's not a knock on anybody. It's just like saying somebody's an entertainer, somebody's a rapper. There's a difference between the two, and it's not a knock at Will, because Will said years ago his mission was to become the biggest movie star in the world. So he purposely chased and studied Hollywood trends to see what was successful. And I don't knock that, because, he's Will Smith, and he's, one of the biggest movie stars of all time. But to say it's like, he's more versatile than Denzel, I'm like, nah, it's just that he does stuff that he knows is going to succeed. Like, I can never see Will doing a Census. And the same token, I can never see Denzel doing a Hitch or doing voiceover work or something like Shark Tale, because that's not his rapport. And to go back to Daniel Day-Lewis, I couldn't see him doing, Tropic Thunder the way Tom Cruise did it. But I couldn't see Tom Cruise doing There Will Be Blood, because it's a different thing. That's
accurate. I cannot. But I think both of them are very self-aware. Like you said, like Will Smith is aware he's a movie star. Denzel, if you look at some interviews, he doesn't call himself a movie star. He actually kind of looks offended if you call him a movie star. He's like, nah, what is that? What does that mean? So I think he's very aware that he is an actor, and that's kind of how he approaches things. I don't think he does things because people want to see me do this, so I'm going to do this. Or I have an image where I have to be this character. I feel like Denzel does whatever speaks to him. And I think, of course, like I said, nothing against Will, because I love Will Smith. I think, I watch Fresh Prince all the time. But I think Will Smith, he is very conscious of the public wants me to do this, so I'm going to do this, or I'm going to play this role. Like, that's why, Bad Boys 3, they're getting ready to do a Bad Boys 4. He knows, people love him in that role. So he's going to do that because he knows that's what puts butts in seats.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not a shot at Will. It's just one of those things where you have to look at it from almost a director's standpoint and a filmmaking standpoint. Because even if you take it a step further, so for the longest time, when Will became Will, he was never part of an ensemble cast where he could be outshined. He was always the man in his movies. Like, I'm the center of attention. I'm going to be the man. You're coming to see me. Everyone else is here going to check.
Yeah, no, that's true. But if you look at Denzel, he's worked with Gene Hackman, and he's worked with Wesley Snipes, a lot of people. He's had a lot of powerful co-stars. Tom Hanks, in Philadelphia. So
yeah, and Denzel even as quiet as it's kept, he was supposed to be in the Fast and Furious, the later ones, playing Mr. Nobody that Kurt Russell became.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the studio wanted him, and Venom was kind of we're not going to assault that man's intelligence by even offering him this role, because I don't think he'll do it. And it's not that it's beneath him, but it's kind of beneath him. Because
no offense, it is beneath him. This is a character. Yeah. He doesn't do he's not a blockbuster. He may do movies that become blockbusters because he's in it and his performance stands out, but he's always character driven. If you look at Fences, Flight, even the stuff he did with Spike, Mo Better Blues, of course Malcolm X, and that's the biggest Oscar snub in the history of the world, but that's another story. But no, a lot of he got game. It's all character driven. He's very much a character actor.
So before we close out, where can fans find on social media? And is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes, I'm available on social media. My Instagram name is C, so the letter C, the 4. So it's C, the 4. Honestly, the only thing I could add is just to all the filmmakers, everybody out there, maybe I guess I'll lean this to somebody that hasn't done that much right now and is interested in becoming a filmmaker. Just, have fun. Always, respect your cast and your crew. Treat everyone the way you want to be treated. Never underestimate sound. Like, sound is key. You do not have a movie if you do not have proper sound. And, just don't let anybody tell you can't do it. And, of course, this is kind of predictable, cliche stuff, but it's important to remember. Never let anybody tell you can't be a filmmaker, you can't make a movie, you can't shoot a feature in 6 days, 7 days, because I've done those things. It's all doable. Have fun with it. And, yeah, that's about it. And just want to thank you again for even wanting to hear me and wanting me to be a part of your show. So I think it's a great thing what you're doing. So I'm very happy to be a part of it.
It's all love, man. Thank you. All right, folks, that was the latest guest on today's edition of the interview, Mr. Clarence Williams IV, no relation to Clarence Williams III. I hope you guys enjoy hearing us fan out over film and just talk and have a conversation. Until the next time, always remember, every great dream begins with a dreamer. Dunn out.